as well as shutting down newspapers and journalists that dared to criticize him. And in an attempt to regain the masses of unemployed former farm workers and farm laborers who had voted for him before, he promised to lift more secular restrictions on Islam. It was then when Menderes made his final mistake. After the army chief of staff, General Kemal Gürsel, expressed his displeasure at the increasing state of the country, Menderes fired him and threatened to seize the army's constitutional political powers as the protectors of the republic which Ataturk had given to them. Gürsel organized a coup that overthrew Menderes in 1960. He was put on a show trial and charged with undermining the republic, sentenced to death and hanged with several of his ministers. In a gruesome spectacle, the army had pictures taken of his body as it hung from the gallows to be published in Turkish newspapers. There are many videos out there by idiots, but also by people who should know better, claiming that all the military coups in Turkey happened to clamp down on Islamists, and that is simply not true. For later coups in particular. But with this one here, it is worth pointing out that the reasons are not as easy to pin down. You could blame the lifting of the restrictions on religion, but those liftings of restrictions were minimal and didn't challenge the secular nature of the republic. You could just as much blame the catastrophic consequences of an overly zealous liberal economic policy of deregulation. You could blame Menderes' xenophobia-built re-election and increasing despotism, but you could also blame that he tried to subdue the army under the power of a civilian government. Or maybe it's all of these reasons combined. Half a century later, the remains of Menderes would be exhumed to be buried in a large tomb, and a generation of Islamist politicians would rewrite much of his history, mostly leaving out all the ugly bits, and declare him a martyr of democracy. There is, however, one important and enduring legacy of Menderes' government, something that you could call a politics of revenge. Menderes had shamelessly abused the power he had as prime minister to shut down newspapers, crack down on opposition as much as he could get away with, and use public broadcasting for his own propaganda. He wasn't a dictator, but with declining popularity he became increasingly despotic. From this moment on, almost every prime minister who would follow him would do the same. The institutions of governance, intent to be impartial, would be increasingly used to exert revenge against political opponents.